Hi everyone, welcome to another video. Today I'm going to be doing ballet assumptions, true or false, basically debunking all of the myths or truths of ballet. I asked you guys to comment all of your assumptions under one post that I have here on YouTube, and I have over 100 assumptions. So I'm going to be looking down at my laptop and going through them. So let's just go ahead and get started. The first one is, I always assume ballet dancers are all pretty feminine in their personality and vibe. This is false. Not all ballet dancers are feminine. I am one of the ballet dancers that is incredibly feminine, just naturally. I've always been a feminine person, but there are a lot of ballet dancers that are not feminine. One of them that comes to mind that you might know is Madeline Wu from San Francisco Ballet. She's got tattoos. Her vibe and aesthetic is all like black, dark colors, not pink girly sparkles like me. So that's a false assumption. Another assumption is that ballet dancers in companies have everything paid for by the company, such as costumes, makeup, physio, and massage. This depends on the company. So if you are with a bigger company with a bigger budget, then yes, all of those things are taken care of for you and it's quite nice. But if you're in a smaller company with a smaller budget, then a lot of times those things are not included. Sometimes they'll have like special occasions. A massage therapist will be backstage for performances, for example. But no other time besides that, whereas the bigger companies will have a physical therapist and a massage therapist available most times at the ballet studio. So it really just depends on the company. My assumption is that ballerinas cannot have bulky, it says in quotation, muscles, or to be short. They need to be lean, thin, and have long limbs. This assumption is true and false. So for many years, ballet has been known for very thin, long dancers that are not allowed to have any kind of muscles, but that is slowly changing. So definitely it is more accepted now to have visible muscles and tone as a ballet dancer, which is great. And your assumption that you can't be short is wrong. There are many short dancers, and there are many times where companies prefer short dancers over tall dancers. As a sedentary 30-plus-year-old with no dance experience, is ballet a realistic option? Can I learn how to turn out properly? Or is it even possible to develop and improve flexibility? Yes, this is a realistic option, and many people don't start ballet until 30 or older. You can gain flexibility, you can learn the technique, you can learn how to turn out properly. Ballet is a realistic option in the recreational sense. Once you're over 30, you cannot go professional, but definitely I would encourage you to start adult beginner ballet classes if it's something you're interested in. Next assumption is that ballet is highly competitive and it takes a toll on dancers' mental health. This is true. I don't know if I need to elaborate on that. Retiring from professional ballet is really hard for the dancer. I mean, this is most likely going to be yes, but of course it's going to depend on the dancer. I think there are quite a few dancers that feel relief after they retire, to be honest. But someone like me, it is going to be very difficult. Next one is that ballet is expensive. True. Very true. Is it true that all ballet dancers can be ballet teachers after they retire from dancing ballet? False. You can be an extraordinary ballet dancer, and that does not mean that you're going to be a good teacher, unfortunately. I used to assume ballet is not a sport or something requiring a lot of energy for how easy and graceful you make it seem. Now I know. I guess this isn't really an assumption, it's a prior assumption, but yes, you are correct. I don't really consider ballet a sport since it is a performing art, but I 100% think that we are athletes, and it takes an incredible amount of training and energy to do ballet correctly. So yeah, part of the job is to make it look easy. That's why everyone thinks it's easy. It's actually pretty frustrating. Next assumption, that you can't eat anything you want. You must eat like a rabbit, salads only. That is a myth. I think I might go crazy if all I could eat was salads and like a rabbit. So I lead a very healthy lifestyle. It's the way that I was raised. A lot of dancers aren't that healthy though. Like, I'm being serious. A lot of dancers might live off of black coffee, energy drinks, pizza late at night after a performance. I mean, no judgment, but that's not healthy. So this is definitely a myth, and I eat a lot more than just salads. My assumption is that ballet dancers need to have the highest extension, oversplits, and somewhat extreme level of active flexibility. This is actually false. Flexibility and high extensions definitely can stand out and help you in ballet, but this is not something that is necessary. There are several professional ballet dancers at the top that are not extremely hypermobile and don't have extensions all the way up to their ear. So I'm going to say that one's false. Assumption, or something that I was told, was that the career is over at 40, and if you even make it that far, you're doing well. So this is pretty true, I'd say. If you make it to 40, then you are doing really well. The majority of ballet dancers will retire before 40. But every year that goes by, dancers seem to be going longer and healthier. So like, they're going longer in their 30s and feeling better because of all of the knowledge we have now with nutrition, physical therapy, massage, whatever else we do nowadays. So this is mostly true though, just on a whole. This assumption says you break your toes often when on point or in the beginning. I'm gonna say this is false. There's definitely not a bunch of toes breaking like left and right. Yes, there are injuries. Yes, dancers can break toes, but honestly, I feel that there are other injuries that are more common, like ankle injuries, knee injuries, hip injuries. But no, just like going on point, it does not mean that we're breaking our toes. This assumption is dancers are not paid for the rehearsal time, just a flat rate for the performance. So this is more for freelance dancers. As freelance dancers, we are commonly only paid per performance. Sometimes we are paid for rehearsal time when we're there rehearsing with the whole production. Actually, most times we are. But all of the preparation that we do on our own before that is not paid. This is not true for dancers in companies. Dancers in companies are usually on a weekly, bi-weekly, monthly salary. So they are paid for the performances and the rehearsal and all the hours that they are there, even though it isn't much. My assumption is that a ballet dancer has no social life outside of the ballet world. This is false. Ballet dancers are very social outside of work. They most of the time lead full lives outside of ballet. I'd say this is something that happens more as you get older. When we're training as teenagers, a lot of times we eat, breathe, sleep ballet. But once you hit your 20s and beyond, we have a life outside of ballet. I know it's often a stereotype that ballet dancers smoke, and I was wondering if that's still true. So ballet dancers smoking cigarettes is not as common here in the United States, but it is still common in some other countries, Russia being one of them. And then the other one that I experienced was when I visited Italy. The ballet dancers were smoking cigarettes before ballet class and then after ballet class. And actually that was like the first time I had ever witnessed that. I have never witnessed dancers smoking cigarettes in the US. Maybe there are some, but it's definitely not as common anymore. What's up with the foot ice bath after training? Is that a myth or a solution? Ice baths are very much true, and a lot of us do ice buckets after training for a long day. Basically, it decreases inflammation. All ballerinas, even dancing recreationally, get bunions, bloody toes, and loose toenails when they go on point. So honestly, true. It depends on how often they're doing point though, if it's recreationally. The thing is that even if you do point for like an hour a week, you still may get a blister. Actually, you're more likely to get a blister because you're not building up those calluses by doing point every single day for hours at a time. So the blisters are common, especially recreationally. Bunions, not so much unless you have them on all the time and you're professional. Bloody toes, that would just come from a bloody blister. And then losing toenails, that's mostly if you're on point more often. But yeah, all of those things are true. It just depends on how often and for how long you have your point shoes on. My assumption, Europe pays ballerinas fairly and America does not. True or false? I think that's true. And if that's not an accurate answer, I'd love to know in the comments, but that's just on a whole. There are some companies that pay well in the United States, but just on a whole, Europe, all of the countries in Europe, most of the countries in Europe support the arts more than the United States. I don't personally believe this, but I've heard a lot of people say that all male ballet dancers are gay. This is not true. Not all male ballet dancers are gay. Brian is not gay. He has a girlfriend, for one. My assumption is that ballet companies expect women to have long hair so they can do whatever hairstyle a classical ballet requires. I mean, I don't believe wigs are a thing in ballet. This is not a true assumption. So there actually are wigs worn in ballet. I've seen the most wigs worn by the Royal Ballet. You don't have to have long hair, although it is easiest since you can just whip it up into a bun. But there are ballet dancers with short hair. They just gel it back and then they put fake buns on. And it honestly, you can't even tell. So that's probably why people don't notice. All ballet dancers come from rich parents. This is not true. Not all ballet dancers come from rich parents. There are some ballet dancers that are awarded scholarships or things like that in order to afford ballet. Ballet is strict and joyless, and dancers are mean. This is sad. No, it's not true. Ballet is strict and it requires discipline, but it's not joyless, and not all ballet dancers are mean. Let's end on a high note. This one says, my assumption is that ballet and ballet dancers are pure magic, and I refuse to believe otherwise. Well, how can I argue with that one? Obviously kidding. But anyways, there is a lot here, so I can't go through all of them, but I hope this helped debunk some assumptions about ballet and ballet dancers. This was a fun video to make, so let me know if you guys would like a part 2. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll talk to you guys later.